Recording live from the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast. By and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode 58, The Spaghetti Incident, where we're going to talk to you about the supposed best bargain hotels in Las Vegas, give you some Vegas news updates, and of course, bring you that all-important drink of the day. But before we can bring you any of that top-shelf, incredible, indispensable Las Vegas content, we have got to welcome in the founder of Dine, Drink Travel and Dine, Drink Vegas. Yes, of course, I mean the high roller formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who is always waiting on that limo to take him away to his next luxury resort destination. Of course, I mean Bill. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, John. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm doing great, other than we've had a heck of a time getting this podcast going. So listeners, I don't know how the audio on this recording is going to go, but in our other platform that we normally use, it was going terribly. So we've dumped into Google Meet and we're hoping for the best. So if the audio is subpar, please forgive us. But I think that's all the more reason to drink. Don't you, Bill?
Yes, but I also think the fact that it's a day that ends in Y is a reason to drink. So sure, let's go with your reason.
Okay. Well, in that case, let me tell the listeners what we're doing today, because this is a drink I don't want to make you introduce because you've been dreading this. So sometime over the summer, I came across a web story, and I think it's mostly the name of this thing. There's a drink that it was all the rage this summer. And I know it's October, but Bill and I live in hot places, so it's still summer. We don't care. This is called the spaghetti drink. And if you've managed to avoid this on social media, first, let me explain where this came from. According to Google AI, the spaghetti drink is named after a character in the show, Tim and Eric, Awesome Show, Good Job. The drink was created in 2016 by bartender Reed Cahill at Wet City Brewery in Baltimore, and is, and I quote, forgive the language, a bastardized Aperol spritz. It's a playful, ironic take on the classic Italian cocktail, much like the awkward character who's out of place. So here's how you make one. You get yourself a 12-ounce beer. They recommend a Miller High Life. I do not. An ounce and a half of Aperol and a half ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice. All of those ingredients can go into the pint glass of your choice, or if you saw my Twitter feed, a mason jar. Or, of course, you can just swig out 2 ounces of beer to make room in your bottle or can for the Aperol or lemon juice. So, Bill, let's start with, I'm going to tell listeners what I put in mine, because I believe we're going to hear the sound of you cracking a can and pouring yours.
You're going to hear the sound of me cracking 2 cans because you were correct. I dread this, but I value our friendship more than I dread this. So I'm going to do this true. But first, yeah, our listeners deserve to hear from somebody who's looking forward to the thing you're about to put in your body.
So here's the thing. I've actually made one of these before. The last one I made was with a bottle of 8. 8, if you don't know, is the ultralight beer that is owned by Troy Aikman, he of Dallas Cowboys fan who wore the jersey number 8. Tonight, I picked up a Yingling Flight. Listeners, I will say this. I think you want a very crisp, light beer that doesn't have a lot of flavors, because you want the Aperol to become the dominant flavor. That said, I am toying around with trying this with a Blue Moon later on down the road. But what you get is something that really is pretty similar to an Aperol spritz. It's refreshing. It's a little bit bubbly. The Aperol becomes the dominant flavor. I've done it with and without the lemon juice. I think I prefer it with very little lemon juice. I'd rather just throw in a lemon wheel. But for show purposes tonight, I did make it to spec, other than using a Yingling Flight instead of the dreaded Miller High Life, the alleged champagne of beers. Bill, why don't you pop that can and tell us what you're doing?
So, listeners, I have been dreading this drink for 3 months, but I genuinely value my friendship with my friend John, so I'm going to do it. And the recipe calls for a 12-ounce Miller High Life or similar light beer of choice. And the only light beer I could get a single can of in my local grocery store was a Bud Light. So what I've got is a glass that has the half ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice. And yes, of course, it's freshly squeezed from an actual lemon, and the ounce and a half of Aperol. Let's open the Bud Light and let's pour it in.
I do fear this particular version of the concoction, mostly because Budweiser and Bud Light give me very strange gas.
Huh. I wish I didn't know that about you.
I think it's something about fermented rice.
Sorry, I've got to let the foam die down and also pour in a full 12 ounces. And by the time I finish this, Sean, I bet I'll have had 1 to maybe even 2 ounces of Bud Light, which is a literally infinite increase in the amount of Bud Light I've had in the last 2 decades.
Yeah, I don't know why you went with the single Bud Light. I would have bought a 6-pack of a beer you tolerate better and used the other 5 for cooking brats and such.
So here's the thing. Because I'm a man of science, I actually have a second beer that I was trying to say as true to the recipe as I possibly could. So I got the lightest beer I could find. Let's give this a shot. That makes me hate myself and want to commit some act of self-harm. And the most harmful thing I can think of to do to myself right now is to have a second swig. Oh, it's bad, John. It's super bad.
Yeah, I suspect it's the beer. But
good Lord. Oh, that's
mine is delightful and refreshing, and the Aperol is the most dominant flavor.
So, because I'm a man of science and because I trust you, I'm going to give this drink a second shot. But this time I'm doing it with a Modelo Especial, which is an actual beer which is acceptable to be drunk by grown adults. So, let's open up the Modelo. Let's pour in the Modelo. And let's see how this makes me feel. But John, based on the Bud Light, you may be losing your drink recommendation privileges on this podcast. That was bad. Oh Lord. That was, pick whichever political party it is you happen to not favor. And that was on the recommendation of whichever party that is worst policy recommendation. So let me try this now with a Modelo. It's still not good. It just doesn't make me hate myself. Like, I will probably finish this so I don't make some kind of alcohol abuse. But I've actually got a third cocktail because, again, I'm a man of science, and also I'm an Episcopalian. I'm dedicated to cocktails. But before I go to the third one, let me try another sip of this. Yeah, I just don't like Aperol and beer. What I've discovered about myself tonight is that I don't like Aperol and beer. So let me try. I made myself another drink, which was 1.5 ounces of Aperol and a 1/2 ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice with 1.5 ounces of bourbon. I used Old Forester in this case, and a few dashes of orange bitter. So let's see how this goes. Yeah, that tastes like fruit punch. So the problem, in a good way, the problem is not the Aperol and the lemon juice. The problem is combining them with beer. It's a thing which shouldn't be done, and you are wrong. John, why do you like this drink? Like, what is it that you see in this terrible concoction of a witch's brew?
Well, first of all, I am opting to use beers that are exceedingly light in flavor, to the point that what you're aiming for is a beer whose flavor is even more mild than the flavor of champagne. And I think the problem with both of the beers you selected is they have a very distinct flavor. Now, in the case of Bud Light, it's a flavor I don't like, but it's there. In the case of Modelo, it's a flavor I quite enjoy, but it's there. What you really want is a carbonated neutral base for the Aperol to shine. And I think if you had gone with, say, Michelob Ultra or something like that, I don't think you would have found the flavor to be objectionable. But I will tell you this, Bill, for your sake, because I know you're not a big fan of the idea of beer cocktails, I will try to limit beer cocktails to only once or twice a year. To record 52 podcasts a year, which is our goal now, we're going to weekly. I'm sure we'll miss a few. We're going to have to come up with some drinks from time to time. They're not all going to be winners. I will say with this one, I don't think I would have liked either version that you made. I think before you write it off entirely, and it may just be you wouldn't like any version. How do you feel about Aperol spritzes out of curiosity?
So I've heard of it. What's an Aperol spritz?
It's exactly the drink we're drinking now, except champagne plays the role of beer.
Huh. So that's a little hard. My guess is I would like it just fine. My guess is that because I'm putting in the Aperol and some lemon juice, I'm probably using I'm probably not using champagne. I'm probably using a sparkling wine, because you're not mixing Dom Perignon with something.
No.
But sure, I'm a man of science. I would be willing to give that a shot. So I've got a different question, John. Talk to me and to our listeners about a couple, 3 beers which would make sense with this drink.
Well, like I said, I do think that your ultra light beers, Modelo Oro, Michelob Ultra, Yingling Flight, Troy Aikman's 8, one of those beers that is sub 100 calories, sub 3 carbs, that are basically alcoholic bottled water at that point, because you really don't want an assertive beer flavor. You don't want that rice character in the Bud Light. And like, Modelo's not a hoppy beer, don't get me wrong, but there is a hint of hops and a hint of malt character. There's Modelo's a good flavor. You don't want that beer flavor here.
So why would I keep any of those beers in my fridge, though? Because I absolutely enjoy beer. Like, I watch football like the rest of America. But if I'm going to drink a beer, I want a beer that tastes like something I want to drink. Hence why the Modelo is something I had. Why would I keep a flavorless beer in my fridge?
Well, you would not, but I got the Betas. So the lower carb count is a selling point.
You know what's got an infinitely low carb count is a straight shot of bourbon.
Yeah, and I think this is an issue as well, Bill. You don't enjoy highballs using carbonated drinks. You're not a big fan of carbonation in general. So what we're essentially making is a carbonated alcoholic beverages, and that's not in your wheelhouse anyway. And I, on the other hand, love carbonated drinks. I drink a lot more sodas than you do by a wide margin.
As a side note, and I won't go very far down this rabbit hole, but I got a text this weekend from my son, Edwin, who is attending university in Ireland. And son, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. I'm glad that there's something of your old man's you listen to, even if it's a podcast about Vegas and drinking. And he asked me to teach him to bartend. And the reason he asked me to teach him to bartend is he quite frequently goes to parties where, like the one he went to this weekend, where he wound up making what he called a Kiev mule for people that everybody really liked. But most of his classmates are in Ireland are drinking what he called a blank and blank, so a highball. So, kid, I am immensely proud of you for wanting to, drink an adult's drink. And yeah, I am. So the way I avoid getting the Beatus in the first place is I just don't drink a lot of carbonated drinks.
Yeah,
except for decent beer.
Yeah, and they make lots of carbonated drinks that don't have sugar. But yeah, I think that may be too. There may be no version of this, including the champagne-based one, that you ultimately love because fizzy thing isn't your thing. I would say that this is a drink for people who like sodas.
Okay, that's fair. It's just based on the 2 experiments I've run so far, it's just not my thing. It's not as bad as the Smurf barf that we did in like episode 11 or whenever that was. But I think this is my second least favorite thing we've tried on the podcast.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I can't promise there'll never be another beer-based cocktail again because there's just too many of them out there. But I will keep torturing you to a minimum, and we won't go back. So I think the way we'll call this is, one, if you're going to do this, you want a very subtly flavored beer. And two, if you're not a bubbles person, don't do it, because Bill is not a bubbles person. I am a bubbles person. Bill hates it. I like it. I think that kind of tells you. All right, Bill. The drink of the day was my idea, and it got mixed results. The main topic for today was yours, so I'm going to let you run with that for a moment.
So, Conde Nast Traveler, which is a famous bastion of egalitarian travel, stole John's line and on October 13th published their list of, quote, 8 best affordable Las Vegas hotels for balling on a budget, close quote. Their list was, in no particular order, the Palms Casino Resort, the Red Rock, the Resorts World, Circa, Park MGM, the Link, the Westin Lake Las Vegas, and the Golden Nugget. So, John, do any of these places, I can think of maybe 2, do any of these places make you think baller on a budget, or are you like, wow, so that's what rich people think discount is?
So I will say this. The ones that I think truly qualify are going to be Park MGM and the Link. Those are absolute baller on a budget. At the Link, you can afford to upgrade to a suite, no sweat. Circa, arguably, although I've got thoughts about how to save more money downtown. Golden Nugget, arguably. The ones I take issue with, and I don't know anything about the Westin Lake, so I'm just going to leave that there. That might be. I'm going to take issue with Resorts World, because even if you get a deal on the room, the dining is dummy expensive and the gambling odds suck. The inverse of that, Red Rock and the Palms, room rates are not affordable, but they do have some affordable dining in both properties and good gambling odds. So I would say that I would give Conde Nast a C. I could think of way better ways to pick places for baller on a budgeting than the list they got. I think my list would be better, but it's not awful. What did you think, Bill?
So, to your comments, I'm not going to allow Circa as a baller on a budget option, because the amount of money they charge is at the very least way higher than anything else down there. The Link is the only thing on here which strikes me as absolute baller on a budget option. Kind of, sort of, maybe sort of the Golden Nugget, although the picture they showed was of their spa suite, which is not at baller on a budget prices really very often. So to me, I think the bigger question, John, because you are the baller on a budget, and we need to trademark that stuff, what would you put on your baller on a budget list?
So I probably drop the Link off unless you're going to upgrade to a suite. And even then, with the Link, some of the furniture's pretty tired. Like, I got a suite there and I got a good deal. It was baller on a budget, but like the bar area in my living room, the vinyl coating was broken off and there was just exposed particle board, right? So Link, an upgraded room at the Link is pushing the limit on baller on a budget, because here's the thing about baller on a budget. There must be some baller quality. However, it must still be in the budget. Link pushes the baller part, right? That's the problem with Link. Park MGM, I think, is baller on a budget. New York can be baller on a budget. I think both of those qualify. I would say downtown. And we had some negative experiences having to do with appliances working and that kind of thing. The nicer rooms at El Cortez can be baller on a budget. However, you and I have run into that housekeeping and the state of their appliances is hit and miss. And when you get there and your room is dirty or the appliances don't work, the baller part goes away. but El Cortez is a possible baller on a budget. The other one, and you make fun of it, and I know what you're going to say already, the suites, not the regular rooms, the suites at the Golden Gate have baller on a budget potential. I would say that the Lux rooms away from Fremont Street, so you don't hear the music all night, at Plaza are baller on a budget. Not the deluxe rooms in the pool tower where you stayed, because that entire tower needs a refresh. But in the other tower that's been refurbished, as long as the sound's not coming through your window, I think that's there. Circa, if Circa was on the strip, it would be baller on a budget, but it's so much more expensive than everything downtown. I do agree with you. So those would be my list. I will say too, sometimes your best baller on a budget is a high-end property on a value sale. One of the things I encourage people to do if you fly Southwest, stalk the Southwest vacation site and hit refresh often. My wife and I got the Palazzo for under $700 a person with airfare back and forth. So essentially the cost of our airfare at the Palazzo was free, because there might be a 10-minute window where that happens, right? There's other ways to do that. But yeah, I would say that Park, New York, possibly El Cortez, possibly the Golden Gate. Circa, if you squint at it, sure.
So you said two things I want to respond to, and that's about the El Cortez and the Link. First, the El Cortez, I refuse to accept as baller on a budget. It's just budget. It's a great place to gamble. I love their new bar. Since the remodel, the new bar is great. That's one of my favorite barber shops in the world, except for Ron, my barber here in Alabama. So there's some good things about the El Cortez, but it's such a terrible place to stay. I will not upgrade it to baller on a budget because there's nothing baller about staying there. As for the Link, so you've stayed there, I haven't, but the reason I'm going to give the Link baller on a budget status is because of what it's proximate to. Even if the hotel itself isn't great, it's adequate, and it's right there in the middle of the strip where everything is good. So yeah, I would absolutely count the Link as baller on a budget because it's close to other things that I want to be in, and the Link might be the way that I get to those things. And as for the Plaza, I would absolutely give that baller on a budget, cred, except for the fact that, and not except for, sorry, I may have pregame before this, save for the fact that you are correct, and it hurts me to say those words, but you're correct. You've got to get a Lux room. Listeners, hear me, Lux. You want a Lux room. The deluxe rooms are old and nasty, very bad, no good. You want a Lux room. So, yeah, that is my reaction to what you said. But the El Cortez is a phenomenal place to gamble. It's actually, since the remodel, a great place to drink. Don't stay there. I think that's what killed Mark. I think our stay at the El Cortez in March, before Mark, my brother-in-law, died in August, is ultimately what killed him, because he was in those terrible, very bad, no good, unremodeled rooms at the back.
Oh, the travel court. That's a dump. No.
Yeah, I think he saw that as like, yeah, I'm out, and then he was out.
I am going to give one more pick on baller on a budget. And that is Vidara. And hear me, Vidara is not cheap, but it is on a budget. And what I mean by this, if you compare on any given stay, Aria, Cosmo, Bellagio, and Vidara, Vidara will almost always be the cheapest of the four, or at the very least, roughly the same price as a base room at the Aria. But your location is a short walk from the other three. Easy access to the tram that goes all the way down to Park MGM. You walk right into Cosmo. You have full run of the Aria. You have full run of the Bellagio. All of the rooms at the Vidara have a kitchenette. And that means that you have a fridge and you have the ability to cook in your room if you want. I actually made my wife breakfast in bed at Vidara, which was great. But even if you don't want to cook, Here's the upside of Vidara that can make it baller on a budget. Most Vegas restaurants give you more food than you could possibly eat. But you don't have a fridge, you don't have a microwave, you don't have a stovetop, you don't have a skillet. You can't reheat that food later. So go ahead and have your one big, fantastic, over the top meal somewhere in Vegas, and you've got a doggy bag for lunch the next day. So Vidara is baller on a budget. It comes with some assembly required, but the ability to make coffee and breakfast in my own room, to reheat leftovers in my own room, even though it's not a cheap room at Vidara, it is a really nice room in the nest of MGM luxury with some ability to save money on my dining options. I think that may be my ultimate baller on a budget pick, to be honest.
So actually, I don't know that I disagree. I think the Fedora would be a great choice for baller on a budget. But do you know what the ultimate baller on a budget option would be in Las Vegas, John?
I don't know.
To check in to the Bellagio and to let them put you into a slightly less nice 2-bedroom suite than the one you had booked and paid for.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's baller on a budget at all. But yeah.
Yeah.
I will say too, the other thing to do is if you happen to have a city card and you have a lot of city thank you points, use those points to buy you some MGM gift cards. And all of a sudden you could turn Bellagio into link prices because you got credit card points. So I'll just throw that out there too. All right, Bill, on that note, unless you have anything to add to the good of the order.
I do not.
Let's jump into some Vegas news. Scott of Vital Vegas posted that MGM is closing their Yonkers, New York casino, which I don't think either of us knew existed.
I did not know that existed, which is probably part of why it shall no longer exist.
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I genuinely hope that the people who work there have new jobs. And if it's an MGM property, they're bound to have options, but maybe MGM should focus on their core business in Las Vegas. Scott also posted an update on the Apple TV series about Siegfried and Roy called Wild Things, which will star Jude Law and Andrew Garfield. So
that should say Garfield. I apologize.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Right. Garfield makes sense. That was my fault. Again, the pre-gaming. So I guess that begs for me the question, John, who is Andrew Garfield?
Oh, that is Spider-Man from The Amazing Spider-Man.
Huh. That is fair. And that is why you are a more culturally literate person than am I.
I'm just a comic book nerd. All right, and the last one we're stealing from Scott. Scott tweeted that Fontainebleau's spa director and, as of today, their food and beverage director have both departed. Bill, who's left at Fontainebleau, and will the last manager left turn off the lights when they close that place?
All I know is that I am very sad that Jonathan Jossel is going to stay at the Plaza rather than going to the Fontainebleau, because apparently they need some help. But I'm beginning to wonder, John, should you and I stay at the Fontainebleau and walk around pretending to be employees? Because as a middle-aged fat white guy, if I put on a blazer, I probably look like casino security at this point. And since all of the employees will be new, I could probably just walk wherever I wanted to go.
I think it'd be fun to try until we got arrested. By the way, speaking of the story you just referenced on Jonathan Jossel, last week we gave Scott credit for that. I think that was Las Vegas locally. And I don't know the first name of Las Vegas locally, but LVL, we're sorry.
Well, then to make it up to them, we will actually quote them. And Las Vegas locally says that the OYO informed their staff that live table games will cease at the end of October. Las Vegas locally also reported that this would happen back in August, but now we've got a specific date for it. And John, this reminds me a lot of what happened downtown at the institution with the hotel room that I'm going to be super nice about, but whose name I can't remember right at the moment.
The Golden Gate.
The Golden Gate. I kept wanting to call it the Golden Nugget, which was not the phrase. And I get it. That's what a disproportionately large number of Vegas visitors want now. But there's still some of us who want the live table game experience. I wish the table game staff at the OYO all the very best. But then again, it's also not a place I was ever going to go to. So, John, what do you think of this move?
So I think this is very different than what Derek Stevens did with the Golden Gate. I think Derek Stevens has 3 successful properties, but realized that the table games at the Golden Gate were not producing money most of the day. And he made the decision to push table play to his other 2 properties and do something with Golden Gate, which is a gamble, but it is Vegas. Oyo is a dumpster fire. The table games with low minimums were the only thing it had going for it. I would argue that this is not a shift in the business model. This is the next lap in the death spiral of a property that is doomed. So I think they're very different situations. I would not read this as Oyo is betting on electronic table gaming saving the day. I think this is Oyo throwing in the towel.
I think that's fair, but I don't know that Oyo throwing in the towel is the worst thing in the world anyway.
No, I don't either. I think that property is not very far from the Strip. You could walk to the Strip from there, although I probably wouldn't. But it has potential, much like the Virgin does. I think it's a shame, and I think they need a better operator in there. And honest to God, like even outside of Vegas, who stays at an Oyo property? All right, anyway, one more from Las Vegas locally, who we are elevating to Scott status tonight by quoting them a bunch. Las Vegas locally shared that furloughed government employees can get a free lap dance at Crazy Horse. Now, they said Wednesday. We're recording on a Tuesday night, so meaning Wednesday, October the 15th. But presumably they may do this every Wednesday till the shutdown ends, however long that is, from noon till 6 p.m. Now, Bill, I'm of 2 minds about this. Help me out. Is this good on the Crazy Horse 3 for looking out for our civil servants who are falling on hard times? Or is a lap dance from whatever girls are working noon to 6 on a Wednesday afternoon not as big a gift as it looks like? I don't frequent these places. I don't know. What do you think?
Before I met Rachel, those were places of which I could intellectually conceive the inside. And I'm struggling to imagine, it's not just what girl gives a lap dance during the afternoon shift on a Wednesday. It's that what girl gives a lap dance for free in the afternoon shift on a Wednesday. But John, because you are dedicated to the success of this podcast and because you're a scholar who is committed to science, can I ask you to go investigate that for us?
Well, as I have my day job here in far west Texas tomorrow, I'm afraid I won't be able to go into Crazy Horse 3 and check that out. Otherwise, sure, I would do it.
No, well, then that is good of you. Well, and news which is, I guess, less terrible, Jacob's Life in Vegas tweeted images of a semi-busy Rio sportsbook and fairly busy casino floor on Sunday night, showing that the once dead venue is coming back to life. So, John, you've been wanting to go to the Rio, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I am lobbying very prominently for the next guy's trip to be at the Rio, assuming I can afford to go, because I told the listeners I'm contemplating a career change that in the short run is going to make my finances tough. In the long run, it'll be okay. But yeah, I never got to experience Rio in its heyday. In spite of my advanced age, I did not Vegas in my youth, partially because I was broke and partially because I was a far more religious individual in my youth. And even if I had had the money, I would have felt guilty having adult beverages and playing 50 cent a hand video poker, as if any of that makes any sense. But Rio has been on my mind for quite some time. Penn and Teller are starting to age. I really want to go to the Rio, spend a night or two, catch a Penn and Teller show. I want to do it after James Tree opens high stakes steakhouse there. I think this is worth checking out, and I think it would be a fun place to do a guy's trip. I really do, Bill.
So, and I don't want to go too far off the news, but why is the Rio a better choice than my preferred option of making the next guy's trip go to the Treasure Island, which is equally cool, but closer to other stuff?
Okay, so here's my argument. Although we've never done a guys trip to TI, we did several guys trips to Mirage and spent a lot of time at TI. I feel like I know TI, and I would stay there. Don't get me wrong, I would do that trip. I think the Rio is an opportunity to do something a little bit different. And granted, sure, we would have to Uber to get to other places, but I've noticed on guys trips we do that anyway. I mean, we were at Mandalay Bay, which required us to do a lot of Ubering to get to things, and that worked out fine. And we've done that twice.
Okay, fair. So, I'm not with you yet, but I am willing to hear your argument. In other news, according to almost the entire internet and probably a little old lady you met at church, the Las Vegas Aces won the WNBA title this year, which was their third title in 4 years. So, John, other than baseball, because you and I have both talked about seeing the eventual Las Vegas A's play, if in fact that happens in 2028, how much interest do you have as a tourist in seeing Las Vegas sports?
I would like to see Las Vegas sports. I got to say, the Aces are not high on my list, but I'm not the world's biggest basketball fan. I don't have anything against the women's game. The women's game is different than the men's game, but in some ways, the women play a more entertaining form of basketball than the NBA anyway. But I would definitely be willing to go to an Aces game. I'm more interested in either catching a Major League Baseball game on the Strip or an NFL or college football game at Allegiant. But sure, you could talk me into that. And I got to say, I absolutely would go to a hockey game. It's just that's one where you got to fight the locals to get in there because Las Vegas has really embraced the Knights.
So that is fair. I don't watch a lot of basketball. I will say I prefer the WNBA product to the NBA product. So if I was ever going to watch it, I think that's what my preference would be.
I think there's just a chance you really like tall women.
I think there is. So listeners, you have, I assume, never met my wife, but I am 2 or 3 inches shorter than she is. Fun fact, she's also a black belt in martial arts, which means I really, really do what I'm supposed to do, because if I were to ever err and stray from the path of truth and righteousness, it would be immediately physically painful.
And Bill, I applaud you for marrying a woman who can not only reach things on the top shelf for you, but who can also defend you from attackers. So well played, my friend.
John, I have thoughts, and I will share those thoughts with you offline, but I extend kind greetings to you and your entire family.
All right, moving on. According to the magazine Nevada Business, the Plaza is now offering a stay, play, and bonus perk that lets guests pick 3 perks for a stay between October 1st and December 1st. You can book the package directly on the Plaza website. The stay perk lets you choose between a $25 casual dining credit, unlimited drinks at the sports book, and one other bar, and an upgrade to a Lux room. The play perk lets you choose between a $25 table bet, slot credit, or bingo credit. Finally, the bonus perk lets you choose between early check-in, late checkout, or Plaza merch. Bill, how would you break that down on your options?
So first, the Plaza is probably my favorite place downtown. So
Here.
I am intellectually biased here. But in terms of which choices I would take, at first, I think the really critical thing is that I would take this. Second, in terms of the first perk, the stay perk, I would take the upgrade to a Lux room, because the Lux rooms are just so much nicer than the deluxe rooms. And I don't want whatever drink I can get for free at the sportsbook. Dear Lord, they might offer me whatever this terrible spaghetti thing is you're making me drink tonight. In terms of the play thing, I mean, I would take the table bet because I'm a blackjack player, and that's just what it is. In terms of the bonus perk, it would depend. But if I arrive there when I usually arrive, I would love to get early check-in so I can just drop off my stuff and start going. How about you, John? How would you construct your bonus on this?
So I'm booking a Lux room anyway, and I can do way more damage with the unlimited drinks at those two bars. I think I know exactly which two bars there are. I believe the Well Whiskey at Plaza is Evan Williams. I'm okay with that. So I think I go with the drink package. I think that's the way I go because I think that's the best bang for my buck. On the play perk, I'm going to do the slot credit for sure. I'm not a big table player and I'm not really into bingo. And then on the bonus perk, this really is going to boil down to my flight plans. Probably early check-in, but it's going to depend on my flight plans.
So that's fair. And I actually thought about the open bar credit, but remember at my workplace, I had some work colleagues give me a bottle of Old Fitzgerald that you have to win at lottery just because I'd done my job well. So listeners, it turns out John and I don't spend all of our time on this podcast. We both have day jobs and we're both quite good at those day jobs. And my colleagues gave me a bottle of Old Fitzgerald just for free, just because they'd done good work for a couple of months, which makes whatever they're willing to give me for free a lot harder sell.
Except that, yeah, I don't know. I free Evan Williams, I'm here for it. And again, another difference between you and I will drink a bourbon and Diet Coke. So
Okay,
a blank and a blank is right up my alley. So I get it from your point of view, but let me put it this way. That room upgrade is probably $15 a night. The dining credit is a $25 dining credit.
which is just for the casual dining.
Right. So, but still they have some options there. The coffee shop is good. They got stuff. But a drink credit, unlimited drinks, yeah, it's going to be draft beer and well liquor. I'll do more than the $25. It's just the best value. Even if I only get 4 drinks, it's the best value.
I respect that. Well, in other news, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, MGM Resorts International has extended the employment agreements of Chief Financial Officer Jonathan Halkyard and Chief Commercial Officer Gary Fritz. Halkyard's deal stretches through September 2029, and there's no timeline specified in the article for Fritz's deal, although the context of the article is that both were going to extend beyond 2028. So, John, what do you make of this? Because on the one hand, MGM is laying off customer-facing staff left and right. On the other hand, they are clearly trying to keep their senior people in place.
Yeah, I think they realize that they're in a storm and they're going to have to make some adjustments to their model, but they must believe they've got the right brain trust in place to do that. And they want to lock down this talent before other operators snag them up. I hope that's correct. You and I tend to stay at MGM properties when we're on the strip, not because we're bought and paid for or anything like that. It used to be because MGM Rewards did us so well, or for me, it was because the My Vegas apps did me so well. Both of those are increasingly less true now, but MGM's sitting on some great real estate. And I think if they can weather this storm and find the right business model, they don't want to miss out on talent. I think they look at what's happening at Resorts World and Fontainebleau, and they realize a revolving door of senior leadership, not good.
So I think that's fair. And the article is quite explicit that the CEO is expected to retire in 2028. So they want to have the level of leadership underneath him staying well beyond that. So I guess that makes sense. I'm more concerned with the people at MGM that I actually talk to, and I'm not sure any of those folks still work there.
Well, and that is an issue. I will say this too. If they're thinking that any of these individuals are potential candidates to replace the CEO. Locking them up into a long-term contract is a better negotiating tactic for the company. Because if your position is, look, you need a new CEO, I want to be the new CEO, my contract is expiring. If you like that person as your new CEO, they have all the leverage and the salary in terms of that contract. But if, look, I've got you tied down one way or the other, so if you'd like the promotion, you'll get the promotion on my terms, is a better bargaining position for the company.
So, John, I apologize for interrupting this podcast, but it's A, really important in terms of me, and B, relevant to things we'll do. I just got an email notification, and I can't buy Amaro Nonino here in Alabama, but I've got 2 bottles of it which are coming to my house tomorrow, and I feel like you need to know that.
Happy Amaro Day to you. Okay, on that note, let's get to our last news story and let you get on to some power drinking. KSNV and other sources are reporting that Southwest Airlines will now have nonstop flights from Las Vegas to Cancun, Los Cabos, and Puerto Vallarta. So, Bill, can you imagine the vacation where that becomes a relevant point for you? Can you imagine going to Vegas, then to Mexico, and then home?
I cannot. And when I first read this, I thought it was about bringing Mexican tourists into Las Vegas. And goodness knows that Vegas needs the help from international visitors. But I don't think that's the point here. So we ran a story a couple of months ago about the Las Vegas Little League team that was, I think, the U.S. champion in the Little League World Series. And the comment we made there was that Las Vegas is a real place where actual people live. I think that this story is a sign that Las Vegas is a real place where actual people live. And I mean, there are people in Vegas who want to go literally anywhere else on vacation. I think that's what this is about, as well as Las Vegas being a convenient connection point for people from, say, the West Coast.
Yeah, and I think if you spend 50 weeks a year working in an urban tourist destination in the desert, spending your vacation time in a tropical, watery, beautiful, quiet Mexican paradise probably sounds real good.
I think it does.
Yeah. Also, on a unrelated note, but just for funsies, you and I have talked about before, we wish Vegas casinos would go back and lean into theming. I would love to see a Cancun themed or a Cozumel themed Vegas resort.
Only after the Cuban themed resort.
Yeah. Well, which Fountain Blue has a chance to be if they'll just quit trying to be serious. Anyway. All right, Bill, on that note, why don't you tell the listeners where they can find more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink Travel content?
Folks, you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we bring you short and focused videos which help you plan your next trip to Las Vegas. It tends to be things like 5 or 10 minutes on this particular restaurant or some particular hotel room. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we mostly now talk about air travel, including the lounges at the Las Vegas airport. You can find us on most social media platforms at Dine Drink Travel, except for except for Blue Sky, where for some reason I am Dine Drink Bill. But most prominently, we are on X, where I am Dine Drink Travel. And John, who are you on X?
I am at Dine Drink John, where I'm more than happy to talk to you about Las Vegas, adult beverages, the Dallas Cowboys, or anything else you want to talk about. We are so glad you took the time to listen to us. And if you've got a good friend who's planning a trip to Vegas and could use our sage wisdom, or a mortal enemy that hates listening to old, fat, white Southern guys talk and talk and talk, please share our podcast with them. Either way, you're helping us grow an audience so that we can continue to bring you outstanding travel content. Thank you so much for listening. And until the next episode, happy travels.